You have a bunch of BI platforms or analytics platforms that are shaping their way, and they're trying to move through this ecosystem to get closer to what everyone calls it next generation BI or next generation analytics. And really, it's some form of an application or leveraging AI. We're going to do all those things for you. It'll be out of the box. So, like, you write your code and then you just like press a button or you chat it and it builds the thing you want for you. But those low code things also made sacrifices on what data and where the data is going to come from. When you think about what Salesforce is or some of these other platforms, it's like they're really just glorified tables. I see a lot of people just using AI for the sake of saying that they use AI out of it. How many people want to like actually have their sales reps chatting with their data? Isn't like the better answer to be like, hey, we built a workflow that helps solve a problem for you, and you don't even have to chat with it. 95% of AI is useless, but the interesting piece is in what is in the 5%. And in the 5%, it's about how do you solve in terms of a workflow is basically that is generally not accomplishable by a human in a normal amount of time, right? This is something, if someone forced me to do it previously, I could have done in maybe 4 or 5 hours.
This is absolutely amazing. I haven't seen this, and I really like the way how Sigma Computing emphasized on version controlling, which is really important for analytics.
We're the only one that lives and breathes and believes that the data warehouse is fundamentally the key element to success in any organization. The warehouse to us is truly the heart of what makes Sigma successful. I like to write Python. I don't like to spend time in spreadsheets. It's a waste of my time personally. We want to build and leverage AI and build workflows that actually solve problems and get the work all the way to complete. This is what I'm lucky I get to enjoy and love what I do every day and be able to speak about Sigma because I use it to actually solve problems.
Thank you so much, Luke. Really appreciate you taking time and I know sitting virtually with me. When I first learned about Sigma computing, it was really intriguing to me because I've seen three things, which is AI, apps, and analytics. If you asked me this question a few years ago, they would stand in a completely different verticals. And now, as we speak in 2025, the lines between them got blurred with the advancements in AI. Maybe we'll start off with you giving us some introduction about yourself and probably move into what Sigma computing is, what the offering is, what are the capabilities, and what problem that you guys are solving with your solution.
I am Luke, and I do many things at Sigma, so I think it's probably an interesting role that I get to support. My title ranges from product manager to product evangelist to VP of marketing. I do many different things. I think that's probably a little bit confusing for most people because normally you get one nice, easy thing to focus on, and I just have the ability to take on many different opportunities at Sigma. And I think that really speaks to where we're going in the market. And you brought it up. Hey, a year ago, you're probably saying you're an analytics company, and now you're saying you do apps and AI. And doesn't everybody say that? Because there very much is a convergence. I have some folks that I work with every day. We actually have this exact conversation. So it's really cool that you asked this question. I don't think of it as like a softball by any means, because it's like in the reality, when you're looking at the market, you have a bunch of BI platforms or analytics platforms that are shaping their way, and they're trying to move through this ecosystem to get closer to what everyone calls it next generation BI or next generation analytics. And really, it's some form of an application or leveraging AI. But similarly, if you like look at other worlds out there, you have the code development software, like let's call it heavy code platforms, or like all of them are actually designing to do and build an application and make it easier and easier, where you have now the Lovable and the Rep of the world that have made coding extremely easy to the point where they're like, hey, we can do applications on a warehouse as well. And then you have the low code-ish tools where it's, yeah, you're going to have to code some, but we want to make it somewhat drag and droppable, where like there's some of the Microsoft stuff, but then if you think like Retool just yesterday, that gives a sense of where we are in time for when this actually gets posted. They're going, hey, we also have an AI app platform that leverages warehouse. Those, by the way, all these have warehouses, but what they don't connect to is the like super powerful underlying data warehouse. So when you think about each of those stacks has value, like the the high code platform, I don't know, like pro code platform, just as you're building, is oh, it's fully customizable. You write any piece of code, it builds exactly what you want, but you have to know how to put all the pieces together. And of course, everyone's converging to do, hey, we're going to do all those things for you. It'll be out of the box. So, like, you write your code and then you just like press a button or you chat it and it builds the thing you want for you. And then the low code tools were like, hey, that was what we wanted to do. That's why we went low code to make it more accessible out of all of it. But those low code things also made sacrifices on what data and where the data is going to come from. But they made it really like their original intent was to make it easy to develop and less about the both of those are like less about the analytics world. If you think about BI, it's like they actually went to a different place and they said, we are actually going to fundamentally focus on the underlying data of an enterprise. And there's so much volume there that it makes it almost impossible to get to like true app building because how are you going to manage and handle volume at scale on a when you're from the warehouse if you're going to just do BI? So we're just going to focus on getting you to a point where you're creating an analytics application, aka a dashboard, and not actually going any further than that. And for us, we're going, cool, we see all these things. We want the benefits of being able to have fully customizable applications. We want to leverage the power of the data warehouse because ultimately, like the warehouse is, if you think about any organization, the warehouse is the heart of what any company is going to go do. At the end of the day, everybody's trying to jam the key information into their warehouse and leverage that. And then on the low code piece, it's always been about accessibility. So like how can you get and take action on your data with and make it extremely accessible? So you have these convergence of different areas. And I think by default, Sigma ends up in this bucket of, hey, they must have been a BI platform because they live on top of the warehouse. And then it's therefore the first step of when we're building our platform was let's derive analytics. But then if you went one step deeper of what we were already offering 2.5, 3 years ago, our company has only been 2018 available to the public, is that, hey, we have this capability of write back. And that write back actually is the key to actually being able to derive and start building applications on top of a warehouse. Because once you're able to input information into a table, that's the same thing. I'm referencing my 3 arrows here. So the low code and the pro code systems were basically creating foundations for just writing back to a table at the end of the day. When you think about what Salesforce is or some of these other platforms, it's like they're really just glorified tables. So then if you think about like when you say Sigma, we're going towards AI apps, applications, everybody's leveraging AI to make these things easier, faster, better. But I will eventually show you an example of how that benefits Sigma and because it's sitting on the warehouse out of it. But when you think about those things, we were just working our way, just like everybody else, to the same point, which is like, how do you make it super easy to be able to take action on top of your warehouse data? And that in that process, it's not just, hey, here's an insight, go somewhere else. Rather, let's just keep it all in one place. And for us, it just has always been fundamentally, how do we keep it in the warehouse? I
I
know it's
mean,
a long answer, but it's like, I love the
it did
question.
actually answer not just my question, the other question that I'm planning on asking, but thank you so much. This is really helpful. I'm really intrigued now because now when I look at Sigma compatible product section, I see Looker, I see, I believe it's Power BI or something else. I know you wanted to show me some things in action, but let me ask you this. While you're building the solution at Sigma Computing, heavily relied upon large language models, in general, are you seeing any patterns in the industry as to how organizations are looking at AI in terms of leveraging a solution that is powered by AI?
Yeah, I think I'm going to just give you how I see things, and then maybe I hope maybe it ties to Sigma's approach or not. But I see a lot of people just using AI for the sake of saying that they use AI out of it, and so that's
Okay.
like step one out of it is, and that's like the least insightful answer. But I think anybody who's a practitioner is going to believe that at some level, where it's I see a lot of AI. Everyone says AI, but how is it actually useful? And the areas that I like, here's where I actually see it useful, is that I see it useful in helping enhance and develop workflow. And again, workflow is like a very vague term. And that's why I was like, okay, if I'm going to show you how Sigma leverages AI, I want to show you how it actually does my job for me out of it more than anything. And that's where I was like, okay, behind the scenes before we hopped on and started doing the podcast, I was like, let me just do a little couple tweaks here because I actually want to get a workflow running live for you and everyone else to see out of this. Is I want to showcase the power of Sigma in a workflow. Like how many times, my question back for anybody about the chat interface, because the first thing you go to is like a chat interface. How many people want to like actually have their sales reps chatting with their data? Isn't like the better answer to be like, hey, we built a workflow that helps solve a problem for you, and you don't even have to chat with it. We use it to leverage and derive the right insights to be in the right place at the right time. Of course, there's a time and a place for it too, right? Like at some point, maybe you want to do some light discovery, and rather than you like clicking on a bunch of filters, or maybe you're just looking for a quick answer, then maybe that's the time and the place. But the general value is not when you just like take on AI and call it AI. I'm not sure if you read, there was like a MIT study. I can send you a version that I have of it. It was like 95% of AI is useless. But the interesting piece is in what is in the 5%. And in the 5%, it's about how do you solve internal, like the values in the 5% is in internal workflows, which is, oh, that's very interesting because when I think about how to leverage it and how, when you talk about Sigma as a back-end business application, not really a you can embed it and make it front-facing, but at the end of the day, like you're building processes behind the scenes, the value is in this little nugget, and it's all sitting there. Everyone's like, the headlines, 95% of AI doesn't work. The real answer is like, hey, this is where success is. We should all, as an entire industry, lean into the 5% of where it's successful rather than going, it doesn't work. The sky is not falling. We actually have found where it's successful, and we should do those things. We should figure out how to automate and leverage AI within existing workflows.
Yep, I 100% agree. That makes me very intrigued right now to actually look things in action. Would you like to share something on the workflows that you just mentioned?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I will tell you that we're going to save the waiting on the workflows because, as I was saying before this, I was like, I'm going to run 2,000 LLMs live, which instead of running them live, I was like, all right, I'm going to just take care of it so that when I do a screen share, you can see what we're doing live. Here is a version of Sigma. And I think the important thing out of all of this is that I said I wear many hats. One of the hats I wear is helping support our sales teams in building workbooks. And a workbook is like, for those, it's like a dashboard or the equivalent of a dashboard or an app or just every product has a different term for this, but ours is a workbook. So I'm in a workbook, and as part of my job in marketing, it is to help our sales teams be successful in any industry. And you're going to get a little bit, if you're not on the sales side of things, you're going to get a little inside of what has to happen. And any seller has to go be an expert in any industry whatsoever, like every version of everything possible. And at Sigma, we have 250 sellers. So you can imagine at any given time, let's just imagine that there's not that many sellers that come to me. Maybe it's only one or two a day, but that starts adding up. And every question is something to the effect of, Luke, do we have resources for this industry? Now, there are very easy industries. I'm going to show you an example of financial services firms where I've already pre-polled this. But the joke that we use internally is that we have this one sales manager that is like, Luke, we are really big in tech right now. What do we have for resources around cannabis tech? And that's so hyper specific. How could I go answer that? Or any version of something so tightly defined? That's where what I'm about to show you comes in handy. And behind the scenes, this is two tables. I'm using two tables of data. One is what are our existing customers and how are they using Sigma at a very high level? And then also like we're using a little bit of product telemetry to help describe what some of the use cases might be. So again, I have, in my example, I would just come up here and I like set it's not even a filter. I can type anything into this bucket, but I can pick like financial services firms, and then we get the output from that. And what it does is it builds me a battle card. That battle card is basically a summary of the industry. Of course, like you can pull these things straight from any LLM like ChatGPT. That's more or less what we're getting here. There isn't a lot of novel information, though we're helping set the stage for it. Again, you're like, Luke, not very useful in terms of how you're differentiated in your workflow. This is just the first step. If we go to the next thing that they're going to always ask for, great, now they understand the industry. The next thing they're going to go is, like, they want a slide. They want to know and understand what's going on. We actually have built that out. And this leverages, again, the telemetry from all these two tables that we were talking about. And then you get a combination of the most common use cases for financial services, which you can see here. There's no hidden, like, this is information that's available to anyone when it comes down to it. So there's nothing like proprietary about this information, other than these are common use cases for how financial services firms are using Sigma. We have a publicly available quote here, so anyone can see and read exactly what is being said about a customer. Again, these are just what goes into sales. The beauty is I did run this ahead of time, like I said, and we ran this basically on top of 2,000 LLMs. What we did is we leveraged LLMs that exist in the warehouse. I think this actually ends up surprising people, is that data warehouses, especially cloud data warehouses these days, they actually, in addition to storing your data, they actually bring in all of the LLMs that they can get access to. This could be OpenAI, this could be Anthropic, this could be any host of model providers that can be leveraged at any given time. And in this example, I'm actually leveraging different models at different points. When I'm running roughly 2,000 LLMs, the bulk of them, let's call it like 1,900 and some change of those, are running on a very low cost model. We're actually using Llama for the scoring of those. And what it's doing is going across every one of those customers and going on a scale of I'm summarizing this very much, but on a scale of 0 to 100, score this customer and how well it will rate in this financial services bucket. And then they get all the score, and then we rank order all of those. So this is now, if you can imagine, this is a column I've added to my table that is then taking some other fields within that column. I'm applying that LLM at the row level in a table or in a spreadsheet, however you want to think about it, and creating and summarizing that information. And because I'm using like a very inexpensive model with some prompting, I can get a nice clean score on every single customer on a scale of 1, is from 0 to 100. And then I can then take, of those customers, let's narrow it down to a certain criteria. And of those customers, then can we like roll up the use cases? And that's what we see from this, is like a summary of the most common use cases of the most relevant customers based on their scoring of this. And this comes back to, I talk about a workflow, right? Can you imagine that every time a seller comes to me and they're like, Luke, can you do this for, again, any industry? A previous possible workflow would have been, first of all, most people are going to say no to this. That's the beauty of this, is like almost everyone's going to say no. But for my personal workflow, I can go, okay, I've got this 0 to 100 score. And now anytime someone comes through, I can basically on the fly look at every single customer we have that's relevant and then pull those through and summarize that. And something that sounds so simple in terms of a workflow is basically, that is generally not accomplishable by a human in a normal amount of time, right? This is something, if someone forced me to do it previously, I could have done in maybe 4 or 5 hours. Again, I've got to go look at all my customers, or maybe I know a few of them that are relevant. And then I'm going to hand select and go through and go, okay, from that customer, again, just hand selected, which do I think are interesting? And I can't do all of that on the fly. So when we talk about, again, this comes back to like, how does Sigma think about things differently than a BI platform or an app platform? Is that we're just like trying to bring together the power of the warehouse. Again, this is just simply customers and some use cases that they have. And how do we roll that up and make it into something unique and practical for everybody, where we're leveraging the power of our data in the warehouse, and in this case, AI from the warehouse. So it's all the beauty in this one place. And as new data comes in, or as there's new LLMs to maybe make these better in terms of the output, and more precise or cheaper, I can go apply those right away. And I don't have to worry because it all sits in my warehouse.
Wow, that's really well architected solution. Like I'm looking at a warehouse of LLMs. 200 LLMs is what you mentioned, right? You did clarify me that these are 2,000 LLMs. Talk to me about what LLMs you're referring to, these 2000 LLMs.
Some of them are real simple LLMs when it comes down to it. Again, because I'm running this in a table, I'm running the exact same LLM with only like slight changes to it, meaning, okay, I'm just going to update like some slight variation of, hey, if I were to just ask more broadly, does this customer fit in this bucket? It's going to go, okay, compare, score, compare, score, compare, score. And those are going to run fast because if you think about it, we're not really providing, I'm probably getting way too in the details on this, but welcome to my world. Like, I'm not providing it a ton of tokens. So one, it's going to run fast, and two, I'm picking a lower quality model. And again, the beauty is I can trust these things because it's all running in my data warehouse.
Understood. So when you were showing me the Sigma user interface, I only saw 2 slides. I didn't see anything in action. When I say action, like when I looked at demo video, there was some analytics component to it. There was some visualization dashboard component to it.
So this is the Sigma interface, and when we're building something for analytics, we have many different components for building out UI, which I think is, again, another very interesting piece of this. But when we build and want to do something that's more analytical, we will always start with a table. And in this case, we have using our most generic data set. We call it our plugs hands-on electronics data set. This is, if we were just to do some like basic exploration of the data, I can create a chart, and I'm just going to come in here and choose some key information. You just look at the fields in here, and it very much looks like it's some store level data by some date. And I can take this and put this day of date on the axis. And if I want to change this, I could go, all right, you know what, don't give me date, give me quarter. And it looks like and acts like an Excel function. But then from here, I could take something like price, bring that on the axis, and we have a visualization. It makes it the best guess at a title. This data is dynamic, so we're looking at through the current period. We have all of our historicals here showing up on a bar chart. And if I want to create charts, I have no problem being able to create those charts in real time, whether it's a line chart or any variety of charts out of it. But the reality is this is great. But more interestingly, I think people spend a lot more time building pivot tables and other similar pieces. So Sigma, because if you like think about how our product already is in terms of our interaction, we've started our analysis at the absolute grain of the data. You can see we brought in 4,500,000 rows approximately. We don't start from the top down. We work our way from the bottom and roll our way up. And that's generally how people like think about it. You work in a spreadsheet, you see the detail of the data. People are always asking, but can I see the detail? Now, if I want to do something like a pivot table, I can actually do that, no problem. And this is probably a little bit more standard of how folks are going to think about typical BI, where it's like, all right, I want to do a bottom, like a tops down kind of analysis, where I can then go, okay, give me like the store region, and we'll put that on rows. And then we'll put date on columns so we can create a pivot table and just quickly change this to year so it aggregates to a useful amount so it's not too detailed. But when I'm building my pivot table, if I want to do something like, okay, I did this at the region, let's now bring in the state. We can add state, a city, excuse me, and then also like store name. We're starting to build out. You can even see it like here is our pivot table that is coming together, and I can bring those things down, no problem. And then I'm going to, in this case, bring in costs. So I'm going to get my total cost by location, in this case, city within a state, no problem. And if I want roll-ups, I can do those too. Formatting, very simple, just click, select, and change my level of detail on which direction I want to go. And you'll notice in here is that it rolls up at different levels. So at each level, you have the ability to have like granular formatting. So in this case, if I wanted to do some complete, again, these aren't going to be exact examples, but if I want to do something like this, I can roll those numbers up to a higher level in my pivot table out of all of these things. Excuse me. Yeah, and so you can see.
So you build this dashboard, how to distribute it? Let's just say I'm an enterprise customer of Sigma Computing, and I use the platform, I built the dashboard. How would I distribute this?
Yeah, so then our ability is as simple as we can first save this off. I'm just going to call this my workbook so that I can come back to this later. But I have the ability to send this out from this form. I want to add row or column level security. That's not a problem. I have many different like abilities to essentially handle version control and how I want to do that. If I want to share this, which is what I'm going to do in this case, I can set this to share it with some people. So I'm going to share this with Mallory from my team. There's Mallory. And now I give Mallory the ability to either view, explore, or edit. And we can simulate what these will look like. And I can give her a notification. So I can first set permissions at an individual level. But similarly, if I have a set of teams where I want to apply row level or column level security, I have no problem being able to do those exact same things. But if I'm someone like Mallory, I can then go preview my different versions. So my first is as a viewer. A viewer is basically what you get. You have the ability to add if I have filters, I can put on filters and apply those across different workbooks. Not a problem.
I've played around with some of the analytic tools, but this is the first time that I'm actually seeing versioning. Like versioning is pretty new, and then I'm seeing it here. If I create a dashboard today and I have a new version tomorrow, you're saying I could go back to my previous version if I wish to. Is that a fair understanding?
That's right. Every element is captured. So if I need to go back in my version history, I can go in. And of course, everything has happened today in one go. But if I did another save, I can go in and go, all right, let me go back to the exact place where I made the last edit and pull up exactly where I was before. And all these things are saving instantaneously. So we'll be able to capture any of those grains now that I've published it. Before I publish it, the grain it's there until I hit that publish for the first time. So that's why I see it like this. But if I were to go into this now, and I'm just going to add a filter. So let's go and make like product line a filter, and we're going to add it as a control. So now it's at the top here. And I can just add in like another one for like product type. Again, I'm just doing this very much on the fly, but let's do some organizing so that we have captured it. You can actually see the version history showing up here on the right. So now if I go, oh no, I don't like any of that. I want to go all the way back to where I was here. No problem. Or go back to the previous published version. We have captured all of those at any point, and we can just choose where we want to go to.
This is absolutely amazing. I haven't seen this, and I really like the way how Sigma Computing emphasized on version controlling, which is really important for analytics. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me give you another variety of this, is that we have this other option in here, which is for what we talked about as a viewer or an explorer. With an explorer, you can create what we call a custom view, which is somewhat similar, but the key is how you save and interact with these, and that you could potentially share them with others. So I can just come over here, I click this little icon that allows me to customize my view, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did. This is not going to be the main version. And the key is that you know this because it says we're building a custom view. I can bring in and add a control. I'm going to bring in the same two previous controls I did before. And then maybe I'll bring in product family just to prove a point on this. And let's do a little bit of formatting on this. I'm the best at building, that's for sure. I'm going to move some things around here, get them organized, and pull them together out of all this. And when we take a look, now I've just added some filters, right? I can go to custom view, and I can create this, save this custom view. And this is the cool thing is, right, I can create my own version. So we'll just call this Luke's homepage view. I'll use something I used. And I can share this with others. So now I have this custom view that I've created. It's not the main, it's my own, essentially I'm forking my own version out of this. I'll hit save. And now if you notice it says my workbook. This is actually now my own view that I've gone to. If I wanted to go back to the original view, I can go back to the published view. Remember, the last published view is where I don't have any of those filters. So now this version exists, but if I give this view to Mallory, Mallory can be able to go to this exact same spot and also be able to leverage this. So now I have this version that exists, plus like the actual main version, and that even if you wanted to have your own version but not share it, you could do that just as well.
That's fantastic. I've never seen these capabilities in any other leading analytic tools, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so they're like the small things, right? These are like
exactly that makes
the main differentiators. So we haven't even shown like our write back capabilities yet.
Yep. Let's just say I'm an enterprise and I built this app.
Great question. So I build out an app on my platform. It's still within Sigma. And that ultimately then you will take the application that you've built and embed it into your platform. And we do that in like the most streamlined, simple way. We have a couple of ways of deploying those. It gives you the flexibility and that speed of deployment and using in this case, an iframe or whatever we want to highlight, is that you can choose to make it analytics, or you could build an entire application and you get to choose how you want to put it and where you want to put it.
Absolutely fantastic. This kind of completes the full circle. Thank you so much again for helping me understand and walking me through. Obviously, there's a lot more capabilities. Unfortunately, we only have little time here. But I wanted to ask.
We are already up on time. I can't believe this.
I wanted to ask you this. If you have 2 minutes time to pitch in Sigma computing, how would you explain what's the differentiating factor? And towards the end, if someone's really interested in reaching out to you, what's the channel for them to say, hey, you know what, we really wanted to learn more about it. How do we reach out to you?
Okay, let's do this. If I were to think about how Sigma differentiates, and there's many differentiators, but we're just going to bucket things. We're going to go back to the original conversation we had when I was like going crazy, drawing diagrams with my hands here, which is fundamentally Sigma is the only platform, if we're just going to go in the analytics space, but we can just think about this across even those other arrowed areas, is that we're the only one that lives and breathes and believes that the data warehouse is fundamentally the key element to success in any organization. They put everything there. Why wouldn't we leverage the power of that? The warehouse to us is truly the heart of what makes Sigma successful. So if you're going to be successful with your data and it is your business's heart, Sigma thinks of it the same way. And we've designed our entire platform around this concept, whether it's leveraging live data so that it always is governed and safe and that you don't have to worry about extracts because it's real time, or it's the AI that's underlying because we're only going to leverage AI from the warehouse. Again, safe, secure, governed. As new models come online, you immediately can bring those in and trust them because they're already vetted by your warehouse vendor. And I'm assuming you trust your warehouse vendor at some level and you're not having to go procure new tools. The second bucket for it is the way that I think about it is like true self-service. That's where we didn't actually spend a lot of time. Yep. And in that true self-service bucket is you have this idea of spreadsheet ease. We didn't really spend much time building any functions or interacting with how it operates as a spreadsheet. That's easy for anyone to understand. But if you're technical, I'm actually, out of all these things, probably pretty technical. I like to write Python. I don't like to spend time in spreadsheets. It's a waste of my time personally. I can write Python and I can build, I won't call it, it's not a notebook, it's within the workbook. We have a workbook element that can let me write Python, or I could choose to do it in SQL. And what's cool, again, I didn't have multiple people for this, but you can build in the exact same workbook at the same time. So if I've got my SQL skills and someone else has a spreadsheet, I can go do all those things in real time. So second bucket, I'll just call it like true self-service for the sake of giving it some name. And then the third bucket, I think this really speaks to the world of analytics, but also all these other areas again that are coming together, is that fundamentally we believe that we want to build and leverage AI and build workflows that actually solve problems and get the work all the way to complete. In the analytics world, if you just think about this, is that previously I would have had to go in and in my example, I would have analyzed all these customers that we have, determined what was good, and gone to a spreadsheet or to a PowerPoint and built all these things out. Very similar, like if you think about a dashboard, the dashboard is always like you get something, you swivel chair, go to somewhere else. And so when I think about the last bucket of my 3 buckets that I'm making up on the fly here is like, we need to have a platform that actually gets the work all the way to done, not like 3/4 of the way. Not, oh, we have the app built, but we don't have the right data. And if you bring the right data in. So 1, the warehouse. 2, making it easy. 3, get it all the way, end to end. Why do we have to go and only do like parts of things in one place? Let's do it all.
Yep, I love it. I love how the way you put it, and obviously I love the enthusiasm that you have and you explaining things. So I can totally believe in it. Again, as an enterprise customer, it doesn't have to be an enterprise customer. Anyone who looked at this video or got to know about Sigma computing and would want to test out the platform.
Oh yes,
they want to do.
You can go to Sigma Computing. There's a free trial in the top corner. or if they want a more personalized experience, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm sure we can provide that in the notes or something. And then it's Luke Stankey. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about these things all day. This is what I'm lucky I get to enjoy and love what I do every day and be able to speak about Sigma because I use it to actually solve problems. Anyway, thank you for the time. I know we're like, okay, we got to go.
Thank you so much, Luke. This is really a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I hope people who are watching it would enjoy it as well. And yeah, you did talk about notebooks. You did talk about going a little technical deep dive into it. I'm more than happy to do another session with you. But for today, thank you so much, and we'll see you probably in another session. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.